My family missed the moment I spent my entire life chasing. No message. No call. Not even a lazy congrats. Just silence, the kind that doesn't echo, it accuses. The day my company's breakthrough went public, reporters filled my inbox, investors sent flowers, and strangers tagged my name under headlines. But my own blood? Nothing. It shouldn't have surprised me. Disappointment was the one language they ever spoke fluently, but some part of me still waited for a flicker of recognition that never came. Then, hours later, when the trending post slowed and I finally let myself breathe, a message arrived. Not warmth. Not pride. Just a 5-word command from my father. Dinner tonight. 8 p.m. Important. That was it. No congratulations. No acknowledgement. Just a summons. My chest tightened, not from hope but from a familiar, icy understanding. They didn't want me. They wanted something from me. I stared out the window of my workspace, a loft overlooking the city I'd practically built my dreams on. The skyline glowed like it was applauding my success, even if the people who raised me refused to clap. Years of grinding flashed through my mind. The 200 rupee instant noodles. The nights coding until sunrise. The weeks I slept on a friend's couch because rent was a fantasy. My family always said my little tech idea wasn't real work. You should join the family firm, they'd say. Real business has walls, Adira. But today the world was quoting my idea. Not theirs. Still, the message pulled at something fragile in me. I remembered being 20, sitting outside on a freezing porch, waiting for them to show up at my college showcase. They never came. I remembered calling home when my startup almost collapsed, and instead of comfort, hearing, failure builds character. Sitting there now, successful but strangely hollow, I felt a quiet realization settle like dust. I wasn't being invited as their daughter. I was being summoned as a resource. I closed my laptop and reached for my old, dented coat, the one they recognized. I didn't want them knowing how much I'd grown, not yet. Appearing small made them predictable. And predictable people reveal themselves quickly. On the drive to the restaurant they chose, memories flickered like broken headlights, moments where I shrank myself to keep the peace, moments where I told myself their neglect wasn't personal. But tonight, something felt different. I wasn't that girl anymore. I was walking into their world not for validation, but for answers. Or maybe, finally, for closure. As I parked outside the upscale glass-front place, one thought pressed into my mind like a warning. This dinner wasn't a reunion, it was a setup. But what I didn't know was that the moment I stepped inside, I would uncover the first crack, a crack in their perfect image that hinted they were hiding something far bigger than their pride. The moment I stepped inside the restaurant, something felt off. My family had chosen a private hall upstairs, a place usually reserved for high-profile clients and discreet business deals. Not birthdays. Not family reunions. Certainly not congratulations dinners. The hallway leading up to it was too quiet, too polished, too intentional. When I opened the door, every head turned at once. My father, Roland Wells, immaculate suit, polished cufflinks, expression rehearsed. My mother, Serafina, perfect posture masking the tremor in her hands. My older siblings, Cedric and Laura, both wearing the kind of smiles that stretch too wide to be sincere. It wasn't a family waiting for me. It was an audience waiting for a performance. Adira. Roland stood as if rising for royalty. That alone was suspicious, the man barely stood for his own clients. You made it. Laura approached first, air-kissing my cheek like she couldn't risk smudging her makeup. Wow sis, you look successful. Her tone sliced like a dull knife, trying to compliment me while reminding herself she hated doing it. Cedric stayed seated, swirling his whiskey as he scanned me like a product he once mocked, but was now reconsidering investing in. I sat down slowly, letting the cold truth settle. They weren't acting like people happy for me. They were acting like people terrified of something. After a few forced niceties, mostly them pretending to care about my big week, and me pretending to believe it, the mask started slipping. Cedric leaned back, tapping his glass thoughtfully. So, your company is being valued at, what was it? 9 figures. His voice held admiration, envy, and calculation all stirred together. My father cleared his throat, adjusting his posture, the universal sign he was about to pivot conversations into business territory. Before we get carried away, we wanted to discuss something meaningful tonight. There it was. The hidden agenda. The real reason I had been summoned. Serafina reached for my hand the way she only did before delivering bad news. Adira, something's happened at the Wells Foundation. Every one of them stiffened at that name. The Wells Foundation was their pride, a legacy built across 3 generations. And more importantly, it was the only thing they ever truly valued more than themselves. I crossed my legs calmly, pretending not to enjoy the unraveling. What happened? I asked, my voice steady. Roland exhaled sharply, the way he used to before admitting one of his minor oversights, which usually turned out to be catastrophic errors. We're facing complications, he said. That's one word for it, Laura muttered. Cedric's jaw tightened. It's falling apart, Adira. Completely. A strange mix of satisfaction and alarm rippled through me. The foundation collapsing. That was impossible. Or so I'd always been told. Serafina finally said it. We need your help. There it was. Their real invitation. Not for dinner. Not for family. For rescue. But something wasn't adding up. Their panic ran deeper than financial trouble. Their eyes weren't just worried, they were desperate. And desperation meant they were hiding something bigger. Much bigger. And when they finally revealed what had pushed the entire Wells Foundation to the edge of collapse, it wasn't just shocking, it was something they had deliberately kept from me for years. For a moment, no one spoke. The silence in the room felt heavier than anything they had said so far. It wasn't the silence of embarrassment or mismanagement. It was the silence of people carrying a secret they were terrified to expose. Roland finally broke. There was an audit, he said, clasping his hands tightly as though trying to hold the rest of the truth inside. A federal one. The word federal hit the table like a dropped knife. My heart didn't race, it sharpened. Years of being underestimated had taught me not to panic when other people did. What kind of audit? I asked. Cedric looked away, staring into his glass as though answers floated in his whiskey. The kind triggered when irregularities appear. Irregularities. Corporate language for, we've messed up so badly, even the government noticed. Laura tried to soften it. It wasn't intentional, Adira. Just oversights. Oversights. In a 3-generation foundation with a full accounting department. Please. I leaned back, folding my arms. Start from the beginning. All of it. Roland inhaled deeply. The foundation's expansion project, the one we launched 3 years ago, cost more than expected. How much more? I asked. Serafina's voice quivered. About 4 times the estimate. My eyebrows lifted. That wasn't miscalculation, that was chaos. Cedric added quietly, and some of the funding disappeared. Disappeared. There it was. The Wells Foundation wasn't collapsing because of competition, recession, or bad timing. It was collapsing because someone inside had been siphoning money. Someone close. Someone trusted. My pulse remained steady. Who? I asked, my voice low. Laura hesitated, guilt flickering in her eyes. We don't know. The way she said it told me everything. They did know. Or at least, they had a very good idea. They just didn't want to say it aloud. Roland rubbed his temples. The auditors froze several accounts. If we don't stabilize the finances in the next 60 days, everything, our properties, our holdings, our family name, will be dismantled. 60 days. Not much time. But enough to fix things, if someone competent was in charge. Then came the final blow. Serafina's voice softened into a tone she used only when she wanted something impossible. Adira, the board suggested you might be the only one capable of turning this around. With your company's success, your connections, they believe you could save us. Save us. There it was again, that word. Not me. Us. But something wasn't aligning. If they were truly innocent, they would be defensive, angry, eager to clear their name. Instead, they looked terrified of being exposed. My instincts screamed the same truth with every passing second. They weren't telling me everything. Not even close. And if the Wells Foundation was sinking, someone inside had tied the anchor themselves. I exhaled slowly. Before I even consider helping, I want the full report. Every detail. No filters. Cedric's grip tightened on his glass. You won't like what you find. I don't need to like it, I said. I just need to know it. What they didn't realize was that I'd walked into this dinner expecting manipulation. What I hadn't expected was corruption, and a secret so deep it rattled even them. But when I finally saw the real report, the charges, the missing funds, and the name silently highlighted between the lines, I realized the betrayal wasn't just financial, it was personal. The next morning, a courier delivered a thick, unmarked envelope to my office. No digital files. No emails. Just paper, which told me one thing immediately. They didn't want any of this traced. Inside the envelope was the full investigative report from the auditors. Page after page of transactions, unauthorized transfers, inflated invoices, ghost vendors, a financial nightmare disguised as philanthropy. But that wasn't what made my stomach twist. It was the pattern. Every suspicious transfer led back to a single internal authorization code, one used by someone high enough to bypass security checks, but low enough that no one questioned the signatures. Someone who had been groomed by the family. Trusted. Hidden in plain sight. My eyes stopped on a name listed in the staff index. Elias Hart. Chief Financial Officer. My ex-fiancé. For a moment, I just sat there, letting the shock roll through me like static. Elias had been part of the Wells Foundation long before we met. He'd been warm, charming, soft-spoken, the kind of man who held doors and made promises that sounded like lullabies. My family adored him. My mother practically worshipped the ground he walked on. And when we broke off our engagement 2 years ago, they never forgave me for it. I was the one who walked away. I was the one who ruined something perfect. I was the one who didn't appreciate a good man. But in this report, his name wasn't under assets. It was under suspects. My pulse sharpened. Elias had access to nearly every financial channel. He handled donor accounts. He oversaw expansions. He managed emergency funds. And the irregularities began exactly 3 months after our breakup, the same time he was promoted. Except the numbers didn't lie. He wasn't just part of the problem. He was the epicenter of it. A knot formed in my chest, not from heartbreak but from clarity. This wasn't just a financial collapse. It was a betrayal engineered by the one person my family insisted I should trust. The next document in the pile made everything worse. A pending federal inquiry naming the Wells family as potentially negligent for ignoring internal red flags. So that's why they summoned me. Not just because they needed money. But because they needed a shield. Someone clean. Someone competent. Someone they could push into the line of fire. Someone like me. Anger simmered just beneath my skin. Not because they hid the truth, I'd expected that. But because they once again assumed I would sacrifice myself for them. Not this time. I placed the documents back into the envelope, sealed it, and stood. If Elias thought he could use my family's trust to cover his tracks, he underestimated me. And if my family thought I would be their silent savior, they didn't know me at all. But when I confronted my family with the truth about Elias, I didn't expect the reaction that followed, because someone at that table already knew. And they'd been protecting him. I arrived at my parents' estate just after sunset, the sky bruised purple, as if even the evening knew something ugly was about to surface. The entire family was already gathered in the main lounge, pretending they hadn't been anxiously waiting for me. Roland stood when I entered. Adira, we hoped. I didn't let him finish. I read the report. Silence crashed into the room. Serafina pressed a hand to her chest. And I placed the envelope on the coffee table, the sound loud and sharp. It's Elias, I said evenly. He engineered the transfers. He hid the losses. He created fake vendors. He siphoned funds over 2 years. And now the foundation is on track to collapse because of him. For a split second, one tiny, fragile second, I expected shock. Anger. Betrayal. But instead, I saw something else in my mother's eyes. Recognition. Not surprise. Not denial. Recognition. My stomach dropped. You knew, I whispered. Serafina's eyes glistened. Adira. You knew, I repeated, louder. Cedric slammed his glass onto the table. This isn't productive. Productive? My voice cut through the room. You're being audited. The foundation is drowning. And the man responsible used your trust to commit felony-level fraud, because no one here bothered to question him. Laura finally spoke, hugging her arms like she was holding a shivering truth. We didn't know everything. But you knew enough, I snapped. Enough to be afraid. Enough to stay quiet. Enough to summon me because you needed a scapegoat with clean hands. Roland's jaw tightened. We thought if the situation stabilized before the audit concluded, we could negotiate. Negotiate? I laughed once, bitter and low. There's no negotiating with felony fraud, Dad. And then Serafina's voice, soft, trembling. We didn't think he'd do something like this. He was family. Family. That word again. You trusted him more than you ever trusted me, I said. And you refused to believe me when I called off the engagement. You asked me to apologize to him. To reconsider. To give him another chance. Serafina's eyes lowered. He said you overreacted. That you were emotional. That you were afraid of commitment. My chest tightened. Of course he did. Classic Elias, a master at charming while condescending. And you believed him, I said quietly. No one answered. So I leaned forward. What else are you hiding? Cedric stiffened. Laura looked down. Roland inhaled sharply, the way he did whenever he was about to spin a story so polished you could see your reflection in it. But Serafina spoke first, her voice breaking in a way I had never heard. There's more, Adira. He didn't just steal money. My breath hitched. Her next word sliced clean through every assumption I had left. He stole it, for someone in this family. The room spun, but not because of the revelation. Because of the way everyone avoided my eyes. Someone here had helped him. Someone here had benefited. Someone here was part of the reason my life had been dragged into their disaster. And they were still hiding who. But when the truth finally came out, who Elias was protecting, who had been working with him, and why my family was so desperate to keep me quiet, the entire Wells legacy shattered, and I made the decision that changed everything. The room trembled with tension. No one moved. No one breathed. Because now the truth wasn't a shadow, it was a ticking bomb in the center of the room, waiting for someone brave or foolish enough to touch it. I stepped closer to my mother. Who was he stealing for, Serafina? Her lips quivered. Adira, please. Say it. Behind me, Cedric shifted uncomfortably. Lara's leg bounced nervously. Roland stared at the floor like the answer was carved into the marble. And then a phone buzzed. Everyone flinched. Cedric glanced at the screen and quickly flipped it face down. My eyes locked on him. Cedric. He wouldn't meet my gaze. Cedric, I repeated, voice sharp, slicing through excuses like glass. Look at me. Slowly, he raised his eyes, and the guilt in them was so loud it didn't need words. It was you, I whispered. Serafina let out a soft cry. Roland closed his eyes in defeat. Cedric swallowed hard. It wasn't supposed to go this far. The air cracked around us. You funneled foundation money through Elias. I demanded. For what? Gambling. Real estate. Pay off your personal debts. What? Cedric's voice broke, raw and pathetic. I was going to double it. Flip it. Bring it back. But then the market crashed. I panicked. He said he'd help me fix it. I cut in. Elias. Cedric nodded, shame pulling his shoulders inward. We thought if the expansion succeeded before the audit, it would cover the missing funds. No one would know. Lara let out a shaky breath. We begged him to stop, Adira. But he kept sinking deeper. Elias said he could hide it, if we backed him. I stared at them, the family who'd spent years calling me irresponsible, dramatic, emotional, naive. But when one of their own actually committed crimes, they hid it. Protected him. Protected Cedric. And planned to use me as their escape hatch. Roland finally spoke, desperation cracking his voice. If you could just pay the temporary deficit, maybe 15 million, the audit would soften and we could. I raised my hand. He fell silent instantly. No, I said. Shock rippled through the room. Cedric froze. Lara's eyes widened. Serafina gasped. Roland's face drained of color. You want me to save you? I said quietly. You want me to risk my name, my company, my life, for your mess? Roland's voice shook. We're family. No, I said, stepping back, feeling the decision carve itself into my bones. Family doesn't destroy you to save themselves. I reached into my bag and pulled out a single folder, my own. I anticipated this, I said. Every angle. Every lie. Every plea. Roland's eyes narrowed. What did you do? I placed the folder on the table. I purchased controlling interest in all non-frozen foundation assets 2 days ago, I said. Legally. Quietly. Cleanly. They all froze, like statues carved from panic. Cedric choked. You what? Roland lunged toward the folder like it might vanish, if he didn't grab it fast enough. But it didn't vanish. They did. In that moment, every layer of their empire peeled away, revealing not a dynasty, but a house of cards built on arrogance and denial. This isn't revenge, I said softly. It's rescue. Not for you. But for the legacy you almost destroyed. I walked toward the door, my pulse steady, my voice stronger than it had ever been. You wanted me to save the foundation, I said. So I will. They stared at me, stunned, terrified, defeated. But none of you, I added, will be part of it. A final silence collapsed behind me as I stepped outside, the cool night air filling my lungs like freedom. For the first time in my life, I wasn't running from my family's darkness. I was walking into my own light. And remember, sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight against the people who were supposed to protect us. If you ever chose yourself over the chaos others dragged you into, that isn't betrayal. That's survival. This is Echoes of Karma, where every story reminds you your peace is worth more than their approval.